This man's name is Robinson, and he works as a submarine commander for Agora, a firm that finds and researches sunken ships at the bottom of the ocean. But on that day, Agora chooses not to extend his contract since they no longer need him. Robinson begs the corporation to retain him since he has been with the company for over a decade. But Agora has chosen to terminate him and would compensate him financially. Robinson's life has been destroyed when his wife opted to divorce and desert him, because he was too preoccupied with his career above his own family, and now he has resigned from his position. Robinson does not dare to see his son and ex-wife in his present condition, since he does not want to ruin their happiness with their new family. His two buddies, Kirsten and Blackie, had also been dismissed by the Agora firm. Robinson and Blackie first meet in a cafe to discuss the resignation and look for new full-time work. Kirsten tells them that a year before he was dismissed, he was deployed to the Black Sea, where they discovered something at a depth of 90 meters that they thought was the remains of a Nazi submarine that had sunk on the high seas between Georgia and Russia during World War II. There is a report that the submarine was transporting a load of gold worth millions of dollars, but Agora was unable to locate the treasure because of jurisdictional problems when Russia and Georgia declared war on one another. Kirsten attempts to persuade Robinson and Blackie to work together to achieve a common purpose that would improve their lives and make them wealthy. Robinson and Blackie are fascinated by the notion, and the following day they meet Lewis, a rich businessman brought to them by Kirsten and an old acquaintance called Daniel. Kirsten, on the other hand, is unable to attend due to illness. The Blues want to sponsor an expedition to uncover a Nazi submarine, and they need $180,000 to acquire a submarine and hire a squad comprised of half British and half Russian citizens. Lewis agrees to support the trip on the condition that he get 40% of the gold if it is worth less than $4 million and 20% if it is worth more than $4 million. Robinson accepts the deal and proceeds to recruit his buddies with complementary abilities to establish a strong team. However, as Robinson is hiring the crew, Kirsten abruptly departs and never returns or provides him any news. Robinson was surprised to learn from Tobin, a youngster waiting for him at his flat, that Kirsten had committed suicide as a result of his unhappiness and sickness. Robinson had no option except to replace Kirsten with Tobin. When they got to the port, they were astonished to see that the submarine they had purchased was an ancient, wrecked-looking vessel. Robinson discovered 3 submarine escape suits in Palka, but elected not to inform anybody about them. The expedition eventually began, and it was very dangerous since they had to continue diving below and cut off the radio to escape the Russian Navy in the Black Sea. Robinson then reminded his team that if they were successful in locating the Nazi wealth, everyone would earn an equal part of the 60 gold pieces. Many individuals disagree with Robinson's split because they believe it is unjust and that everyone should have a piece depending on their skills. This argument sparks a fight between the British and Russian crews, with Blackie serving as a translator. The British contend that the divide is unjust and that they should get more, whilst the Russian crew see Tobin as a negative indication owing to his lack of expertise. This tension is heightened when Tobin informs Robinson that his girlfriend is pregnant with his kid, adding a personal dimension to the conflict. A disagreement ensues when the troublemaker called Fraser purposefully spills the food prepared by the Russian crew who worked as their cook. Blackie, who acts as a translator between them, notifies Robinson of the dispute, stating that the British do not agree with the split he created and want more. Soon later, another brawl erupts between Giddens and the Russian chef. It comes out that the two of them made a bet, and Gideon used a radio without Robinson's permission to find out which number won the bet. Robinson gets enraged and smashes the radio, which it is their only chance if the submarine sinks. Then Robinson informs his crew that everyone will get an equal portion, and he demands anybody who disagrees with the division to leave the submarine immediately. The whole crew returned to their places in silence, save Fraser, who was visibly agitated and pulled out his knife. Tilden was tasked to assist a Russian crew member Zaitsev in repairing a leak, but he missed where to turn the handle, resulting in a fresh leak that struck 87 in the face. Blackie chastised him for his irresponsibility and warned him to be cautious, but Fraser intervened and attempted to protect Tobin. Blackie attempted to explain what had occurred and informed Fraser that he was providing Tobin advice, but Fraser abruptly attacked Blackie with his knife. Blackie collapsed and unintentionally dumped oil into the engine being rebuilt by Zaitsev, resulting in a massive explosion in the submarine that plunged it to the bottom of the ocean. Robinson awoke after 18 hours of sleep to discover that Blackie and Giddens had been burnt to death. When they informed Robinson what had occurred and that the Russians had taken over the portion of the submarine where their food was kept, the British crew was enraged. They intended to assassinate Fraser after he murdered Blackie and foiled their objectives. Robinson attempted to speak with the Russian crew and encouraged them to work together to resurrect the submarine since they only had 36 hours before they all perished. Morozov, a Russian crew member who spoke English well, stepped in to replace Blackie as the interpreter. However, they were unsure if they could restart the submarine since they were now short on staff and the steering axle was seriously broken. Robinson requested Morozov to convince Baba and Zaitsev to make peace since they were sonar and machine specialists. Baba and Zaitsev agreed to cooperate with him again, but Zaitsev threatened to murder Fraser. When they reach the surface, the crew attempts to create a noise by slamming iron rods together. After a time, Baba discovers something close to their submarine, but he's not sure whether it's a Nazi submarine or simply an underwater dune. Fraser, Tobin, and Peters decide to go diving to find out what it is. They discover a sand dune after diving 100 meters, and Fraser is certain it is not a submarine. They are first desperate because the Earth is shifting and believe their goal has failed. However, as Tobin digs beneath the sand, he discovers something like the Nazi emblem. It turns out to be a Nazi submarine submerged under the beach. They instantly enter the submarine and discover several Nazi soldier heads. Frieza eventually finds the gold they're seeking for after digging through every hatch of the submarine. The gold weighs 4 tons in all, and it is transported to the submersible using a winch. They don't detect any difficulties at first, but the gold is too heavy, forcing part of it to fall. Peters attempts to hold it so that all of the gold does not fall into the abyss, but he slips and falls into the abyss when the safety rope on his body breaks as a result of being ran over by a wheel. Tobin and Fraser are unable to rescue him and must return to the submarine. Despite obtaining the gold, the situation gets harder since the submarine requires at least 9 personnel to operate. Daniel was compelled to replace Reynolds, but he refused and requested a private session with Robinson. Daniel disclosed to Robinson that the Agora Corporation had arranged the whole affair from Reynolds' departure to Lewis' interest. He also told Robinson that Kirsten was still alive and had been given $30,000 to persuade Blackie and Robinson to look for Nazi treasure. If they were successful, Daniel informed them that Agora and the Russian Navy would be waiting on the surface to arrest them for stealing. Everyone was furious and wanted to murder Daniel for tricking them, but Robinson had put him in a room to keep him safe, since they had already lost a number of crew members and could need Daniel in the long term. Robinson alters his plans and decides to sail to the north of Turkey, since the Russian Navy is in the east and will not dare to invade another country's borders. Robinson tells everyone that they can accomplish it, and he doesn't want to go empty-handed. On the other side, the gold digger turns out to be more than they expected, so they now own all of the gold without having to split it with the Agora. However, they only have 14 hours until the submarine's battery runs out. They run into a major dilemma in the midst of their voyage when they discover that they have reached dangerously shallow water and are now in front of a valley just 100 meters wide. Morozov orders Robinson to turn back, whilst Fraser orders them all to surrender and climb to the surface immediately. Fraser gets into a dispute with Robinson and claims that all of the gold is manufactured. Crazy Robinson gets his rifle and directs the crew to return to their places before deciding to face the risk of crossing the narrow valley, which would take them just an hour, rather than going around it, which would take considerably longer. Daniel starts to persuade Fraser to murder Zaitsev, claiming that he is the only crew member who knows anything about the submarine engines, and that if he dies, the submarine would rise to the surface. Daniel's remarks have driven Fraser insane, and just as they are about to make it through the tight valley, Fraser wrecks their final plan by murdering Zaitsev. All of the engines shut down quickly, and none of the crew members can operate the submarine's engines. Daniel informs Robinson that Zaitsev died when his head collided with something, but Robinson suspects Daniel and Fraser murdered him. He really wants to murder Daniel, but he has no option but to let him live since he has lost so many crew members. Reynolds and Baba try to fix the engine, but the outcome was disastrous. A massive explosion pushed the submarine back to the seafloor, where the tremendous pressure created a serious leak. Despite their best efforts, the crew was unable to stop the leak, and water began to seep through the hull. In an effort to rescue himself, Daniel purposefully closed the hatch, allowing Reynolds and Baba to drown. His destiny was sealed, however, when his belt became trapped in the hatch door, rendering him unable to escape. Daniel implored Morozov for assistance, but Morozov knew Daniel had slain the rest of the crew and refused to assist him, allowing him to drown. Morozov ran to the final hatch with Robinson and Tobin, only to discover that Robinson had concealed 3 escape suits. Morozov was upset that Robinson had not informed them about the escape suits, which the 3 of them used to escape the doomed submarine. Robinson instructs Tobin and Morozov to immediately put on their escape suits and exit the submarine, while he will use an emergency tube. Morozov believes Robinson is sacrificing himself for them, both since he won't be able to escape until someone pulls the lever. Robinson bans Tobin from bringing a bar of gold inside his escape suit, because the gold is too heavy for the escape suit to raise to the surface. When water begins to infiltrate the last hatch, Robinson quickly places Tobin and Morozov in needle tubes to get them out. Tobin makes it to the surface, followed by Morozov minutes later. They notice a land not far away and Tobin wants to wait for Robinson first, but Morozov informs him that Robinson also lied about the emergency tube, since someone has to lift the lever of the torpedo tube to escape out of there. The second suit to rise from the sea was not Robinson's, but gold that he had slipped inside it, along with a portrait of his kid and ex-wife. As Robinson awaits his death, he remembers all the pleasant times he had with the people he cared about the most. That was the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please subscribe for more similar content, and hit the like button to help and support us. Take care until next time.